Good afternoon, everyone. The first thing I want to do is thank everybody for coming to this event. I can't tell you how much it means to me, my district, the city of New York, and the state of New York. As we know, New York City is a very difficult place and environment right now for a lot of people. Uh, and these people include just about everybody in some way, one way or another. One way or another. So, but before I start, I would like to start with going around the room and letting our neighbors and friends introduce ourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do. So let's start with the guests.
My name is Daniela Souza Igorov. I'm a fellow at the Manhattan Institute and I focus on education. And I'm also vice president of CC District 2 here in Manhattan.
Fantastic.
Should we turn this on?
I think it goes on automatically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You speak into it.
I see. My name's Chilling Tong. I'm the president and CEO of a National Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, also called National ACE. We represent 3 million AAPI small business owners throughout the country, employ about 5 million people, and we have 130 affiliate chambers and partners throughout the country. I'm very pleased to see Wellington Chance here with us. We work closely with our partners, and we focus on national policy. But I think for our local policy, we very much rely on our local partners. And we constantly have a roundtables and to hear and learn from the local issue and how we can work with federal government and also congressional office together to help resolve those issues.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Humberto Lopes. I'm from HL Dynasty. I've also now formally started my own coalition, which is called Gotham Housing Alliance. I'm here to make a lot of changes and make things better because I've been in business for 44 years. I started my company 44 years ago. I was not even 18 years old. I have a real estate company and a construction company. A lot of these topics that we're going to talk about today hits my pockets, hits my tenants, hits me personally. It's a personal thing now. So I'm in financial where it's hurting so many people. So this is why I'm here also to make a change and for people to understand what it actually feels and what's going on today. Because a lot of people speak a lot of things, but they're not actual owners. They don't actually own the property. They don't have that feel to know that this was my best year. 6 evictions with marshals to throw people out. So this is the reason why I'm here. Thank you.
My name is Joseph Alston. I am Senior Director of Government Affairs with the Business Council of New York State. We are the largest employer association within the state. So essentially, we're the state's Chamber of Commerce. We have 3,200 members. 70% of those are small businesses. And again, I just thank you for hosting this forum because affordability has been a major issue that we're hearing with our members, even consumers. Prices going out of control, overregulation, and it's just on and on and on and on. And we've heard these issues in presidential elections. We heard these issues with the governor's budget and state of the state, affordability. The mayor-elect, affordability. But it's time that we do something about it because I don't know about everyone else, but I'm tired of out-migration and our residents and businesses are going to Florida and Texas, and we need to stop that. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Eileen Frank, and I am here representing the Big I, the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of New York. My company is called JP West. We are a New York domicile corporation, and like you, I am a small business owner as well. But I am here with a perspective from the insurance industry, and happy to talk to you about some of those things that we see from the inside that may help you as leaders and consumers be able to use these services. I know that there are a lot of things that folks experience and view as being challenging and maybe even negative, but we know that the industry seeks to serve, and there are things that can be done to make that service more effective.
Hi, my name is Andrea Jacobson. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Public Policy and Government Engagement at Emblem Health. We're a nonprofit, mission-based health insurer. We're actually headquartered just a few blocks away. We provide coverage for about 2 million New Yorkers. We're the primary health insurer for New York City workers, so the first responders, teachers, the people that serve us every day. We're really proud to serve them. We're committed to our communities. We have 15 neighborhood care locations that provide free services to all community members around health and wellness. And we also have an affiliated physician practice providing primary and specialty care in 30 locations across New York City and Long Island. And know that the costs of healthcare and the rising costs of healthcare are having a big impact on affordability for workers, for employers across the state. So that's definitely something we're aware of and want to also get costs down as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wellington Chen. I'm the director of the Chinatown Business Improvement District, as well as the Chinatown Partnership. But more importantly, we co-founded the Chinatown Community Land Trust, which is a pressure relieving valve for the property taxes, which we could get into discussion later on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Wong. I'm a member of the Small Property Owners of New York. My family and I, we own a number of properties in Brooklyn, Queens, and some on Long Island. And we've provided housing to New Yorkers for over 4 decades. And we're just feeling the squeeze of rules, regulations, and the inability to increase rent to cover the expenses needed to provide proper housing for New Yorkers.
I'm Ann Korchak. I'm also with the Small Property Owners of New York. I serve as the board president. And SPONY is a 40-year grassroots organization that was founded to speak for small property owners. You know, each one of the properties we own is a small business, and New York City and New York State are an incredibly inhospitable place for us to run our small businesses. And we've just welcomed the opportunity to be able to speak to you all today.
Okay, so I'll do the last introduction over there. That's my friend Susan Wang. She is the owner of a healthcare company as well as an importer and a small real estate company in my district. And she's a small scale businesswoman who is impacted by the cancellation of CDPAP as well. So she's feeling the squeeze, like you said, of the overregulation and the labor costs, rising labor costs, and rising operating costs of her business. So I'm Senator Steve Chan, as you all know, from South Brooklyn, District 17. I pride myself in having done all of what you guys do. You know, I come from humble backgrounds. I'm an immigrant at the age of 11. I went to school here. I grew up in Bay Ridge and Bensonhurst. I'm there 50 years. And I'm a New York City police officer for 27 years. I'm a U.S. Marine. I started in the police department in 1993. At the very same time, I opened a small flower shop with my ex-girlfriend. And we worked that flower shop for the next 13, 14 years. And we came through that flower shop, we became small landlords ourselves. And so I'm a small business owner, small landlord. I'm a public servant. So people find it very easy to talk to me. I know that when I'm walking my dog down the block and I start speaking to the neighbors, and I can relate to everybody in some way, in one way or another. So I feel the pain. I know now that small store owners and business owners come to me with their difficulties. I know right now the nail salons are always the first one to be impacted by a slowing economy because that's purely disposable income. The next is the more expensive eateries, and it goes down the line. Everybody's going to start feeling it. Then the hair salons will feel it and so forth. So I'm glad that all of you are here today because I am very concerned for my district, the health and well-being of it. I sympathize with everybody, not just our small landlords and small business owners, but you know what, the working guy too, because I'm a union member for 27 years. So I know how difficult it is for a working guy to raise a family, send their kids to school, trying to enroll their kids in the schools and find the right schools for them. That's a good fit for them. So again, I thank you for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Assemblyman Lester Chang.
Well, thank you, Senator Chang, and thank you for hosting this meeting, a very important roundtable to hear the voices from the streets, from actual impact businessman or as consumer regarding about affordability. Now, I grew up in Chinatown, a few blocks away from Eldred Street, and my family moved over to Brooklyn, where we, for about next 10 years, owned a Chinese restaurant and a takeout place, and I was a teenager working in there. And 24 years in the Navy, did a tour in Afghanistan, 20 years in a logistic company. I lived overseas in India and Bangladesh, managing businesses moving cargo. So I had that international flavor, but also I can see the third world country. India, Bangladesh is a third world, how they operate the business with so little resource, but somehow they make do. And as I was retiring, I picked up this government job here. But then I realized that as an elected official, we can make it happen. I mean, we listen for our concern, our constituents. We try to find a legislation that fit to solve some of our issues here, quality of life issues. And of course, in Albany, we battle it out and try to make a compromise. And that's what we're here for, because we are the instrument, can make the changes for you, but you have to tell us what are solutions and issues to help us to craft those legislation to help you guys. So I appreciate for you to be here. And again, let me thank Senator Chang for hosting this roundtable. And I believe we'll be hosting many more such roundtable to hear you guys. Thank you. And I turn over to Senator Chang.
I'm going to turn it over to Assemblyman Michael Novikov, who is from our Russian-speaking community over in South Brooklyn.
Thank you, Senator Chen, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming here today. This is an extremely important issue, which is, this is affordability is something that, that then drives the political agenda. And, we all hear a lot of populism, based on affordability, even though sometimes it's impossible to implement, but still. I'm not going to call names. You all know these names. I'm a small business owner too. I've always been a business owner. I came from the socialist Russia, and I know what socialism is. I've lived through it. I saw empty shelves in the grocery stores. I do not believe in government grocery stores. I think this is an absolute absurd. And populism, and in the country I came from, when I was a teen, people just couldn't be business people. It was illegal to run your own business. So when I came to this country, I wanted to run my own business, and through all my life, I was I had so many businesses, and in 2019, I co-founded a Russian language radio station, 104.7 FM, which broadcasts from the Freedom Tower, right? I called it Freedom FM. And then the pandemic hit in 2020. It was, for all of us, such a tough time, something absolutely unexpected. And if you remember those times, we got a lot of help from the government, and then suddenly everything changed. No more help. Prices went up. Everything went up. Unfortunately, I'm looking for an apartment right now because the house where I live is being sold, and I rented it 3 years ago, and I noticed that the same apartment today costs 33% more, a third more than what I was paying 3 years ago. And this is absolutely unacceptable. And let me give you, I love examples. So let me give you a very simple example. I've met with a developer. He purchased 2 chunks of land to build a 10-story residential building. So between those two lands, used to be private houses on these lands, there was an electric pole, Con Edison pole. So he called Con Edison. Yes, I need to remove the pole to start the building process. They said, wait for 18 months. 18 months, ladies and gentlemen, to remove a single pole, which could be removed within 1 day. 18 months. What it means for the for the prices, the real estate prices. It means that for 18 months, this developer will be paying all the bank fees, all the mortgage fees, which gonna drive the prices for the real estate up, which gonna drive the prices for those apartments in this building up. And this is absolutely unacceptable. I'm a staunch advocate for the small property owners of New York, Spony, because I think that we shouldn't judge small property owners the same as we judge the big property owners, the big building owners. And I think you guys are the victims of today's New York State laws, and that again, that what drives the price. So I can continue going on and on and on and on. And CityPAP, of course. Thank you, Senator, for mentioning that. Now I got a call from the brokers, the Health Insurance Brokers Association. If you, I don't know if you heard about that, but they're cutting. The state is trying to get rid of the health insurance brokers. There are a lot of 600 to 700 of New York State health insurance brokers, and especially for my community, especially I know for the Asian community, it's extremely important because they can come to their broker, and speak in their native language, and get the best deal. Now, the state, but it's not because of the money. I don't know why. I still don't understand the reason behind it, but they're cutting those brokers. The insurance companies pay the brokers, not the state. Pays the commission. However, we will have another 600 people without a job. It's 600 families plus employees that work for them. It's thousands of people. So those absolutely, the decisions that do not make sense, state decisions, city decisions, government decisions, it doesn't make any sense. Another quick example, and we will move on. I love this example. I've had a tour of just an average school, and the principal of the school tells me, Mr. Novikov, we just renovated the girls' restroom. If you can help us with funding for the boys' restroom, that would be amazing. So I walked in the restroom. It's a regular restroom. Just a restroom in the school. And I'm like, how much? $250,000, $250,000 to renovate a boys' room. I called a few contractors that I know. That's Michael. Well, like $25,000, $30,000. One guy said, if you pay me 60, I'm gonna put Versace tiles on it. Like 10 times. Everything that has to do with the government costs 10 times more than the real world prices. And we're talking about affordability, and we're talking about deficit, and we're talking about we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. We need to fix this. Bureaucracy and corruption. This is the cause of inaffordability. Thank you so much. My name is Michael Novikov. I represent the 45th Assembly District in the Southern Brooklyn area, mostly Russian-speaking and Jewish constituents. And again, thank you so much for inviting me. I hope, after this discussion, we will have a real plan to fight all these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So now we can begin some aspects of our discussion. And you're right about one thing. This is not going to be the last of it because there just simply isn't enough time to discuss what we have to discuss today, and that includes everything from childcare to energy to inflation, everything, taxes. So let's start with something that everybody can relate to a little bit. I think does everybody at one time or another have had children? Okay, so let's talk about something that's very important. Today's day and age, both husband and wife often have to work. And I know that was the case with me and my wife and me and my ex-girlfriend. Well, I don't have kids with my ex-girlfriend. I have two daughters in public schools. And from day one, when they entered school, I know the challenges and frustrations of trying to get them in school, enrolling them in the right school that's a good fit for them and our family. The hardest thing to do was arrange childcare and among our work schedules and things like that. So does anybody want to share any experiences with that? Umberto.
Where's the mic? Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I have that firsthand. I have a Basis International School that was built in Red Hook that I put in Red Hook to a private, mind you, it's for private, but I made it affordable. Doesn't sound affordable, but if you compare it to other high schools and other schools, it was still affordable.
So you rented them the premise?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've had them partnership that we built the building. So it's a 100,000 square foot building in Red Hook on Columbia Street that we put in to benefit the private section. That's one. Their tuition was low. It was about 20-something thousand per kid, which was okay at that time, which is still low. Then I also did a lot of buildings that I put daycares. You know, the toddlers from 3, 4 months, whatever it is, to 5 years old. Sunflower, I think it was called, right? I still have these as tenants. I go to them every 7, 8 months only because of the taxes and all the stuff that I have to increase, not the rent. The rent is there already. But I had to go to Sunflower. It's a small business on Smith Street in Carroll Gardens. The property tax went up this year 15%. I had to hand her a bill. Now, what do you think she does with that bill? She goes to everyone that stays in the daycare, right? She has to pass it on to all these kids, all the parents. Where does that start to where it's going? So at this time, it just doesn't make sense. So her rent stood the same. She pays about $3,500 a month, I think it is, something like that. I raise her rent 2%. But I hand her a 15% increase on property taxes. We know where this is coming from. We already know that now she has to turn around in this December, because her fiscal year ends in December, to tell all these parents, I got to raise you now, whatever it is, $150 more a month, right? Because these people pay monthly. We trickle everything down to the person. And this is a small mom and pop business. She's got maybe 15 to 20 kids in, each classroom, So what happens here? That it's not my base rent because I'm trying to be fair with her at 2%, which is below average, right? And now she's got to pay 15%. So it's crazy in that sense. So passing it down now to the parents.
Right. So we can see a direct correlation in this case between property tax and the cost of childcare, because it does the buck does get passed along. Unfortunately, we can't expect somebody to conduct a childcare center or a school without turning a profit. They can't do it for free, right? So it's we feel the pain. I understand it. They may have to cut corners elsewhere. I get that too.
Yeah.
I have that brings us to the next thing. But anybody else with childcare? That brings us to the next subject, by the way, of energy. Now, my 10-year-old daughter, in the year 2019, read something about the fish dying at the Indian Point nuclear power plant in New York State, in Buchanan, New York. She asked me if I could take her up there so she can do a geological and ecological study of the Indian Point nuclear power plant. My daughter's 10. She's 10. And she's just, she was a 100 student, and, she ended up being the valedictorian in that elementary school. But what I didn't know at the time was I have 2 daughters, a younger one. I started a 6-year-long study conducted by 2 sisters on the Indian Point nuclear power plant. And that's what we stumbled across. And when my daughter did the research, and I have it in photos because during the pandemic, that first part of the project is lost. And she realized, wait a minute, they're going to shut down Indian Point. They're going to shut down IPEC. And we're going to end up buying energy from the same company, Entergy, from another state to grid it in. And she said, how are we going to make up for this 24% lost electricity, Dad? I said, well, maybe chop down wood and burn it as fossil fuel, right? It's
go back to cold.
So with that said, I know for a fact that our electricity costs, our energy costs has increased exponentially in the last few years, especially after we shut down IPEC. With the CLCPA, with this green energy initiative, with this wind energy that is non-existent right now, with our pursuit of technology that is not yet there. So wait till we head into the point where all the school buses have to be charged every day. We're talking 100%. That's not like some other states. So I have businesses telling me, Steve, I can't turn on the AC because I don't have the money to pay the cooling bill. I can't turn on the heat, especially like the dollar stores. These people are operating on a razor-thin profit margin. We have no dollar store owners over here. I'll make sure to invite some of those people next time. They can't afford to heat their store. They can't afford to cool their store. They can't afford more than one employee, and they certainly cannot afford the theft. Shrinkage, they call it, right? Shrinkage in their business. They can't afford that either. So, does anybody want to talk about energy costs?
Sure. I think Jackie and I can speak to that, especially as small landlords. Before today, I looked at my expenses and income to prepare for this. And I think for a lot of us, things really changed with COVID. So I looked at my income and expenses starting at 2020 and now ending at 2024, my last tax return. And my utilities costs went up 17%. I own a mixed regulated building. So the stabilized rents are not increasing nearly enough to cover our increasing expenses. And the free market tenants are bearing the burden of that. You know, their rents are going up exponentially to cover for the operating shortfall on the rent stabilized units.
I'm surprised you told me it only went up 17% because in one of the mixed use buildings that I own, I went up 44%.
Right, but mine's all residential, so it's a bit different. You have that commercial space is
Right.
a much
Right.
bigger user
Yeah, I'm sorry.
and the demand.
Yeah.
So one of our buildings that we own is fully rent stabilized in Brooklyn. And so the expenses just keep rising. It's energy, it's taxes, it's insurance. Our insurance has doubled since 2019. Our taxes have gone up by almost 90% since 2019. So being fully regulated, we just don't have the flexibility to increase those rents. So we're really stuck. And we actually did own a fully rent stabilized building in Manhattan in Chinatown, and we were forced to sell it because we just couldn't bear the expenses any longer. It just was not making sense.
Was it profitable when you sold the building?
It was not profitable. It was a 20-unit building in Chinatown on Henry Street. Prior to 2019, we were getting offers for that property at $5 or $6 million. We ended up selling it for $1.5 million. And it was really just so that we just couldn't afford it anymore. But it was very personal because we had owned it since the 80s. My father-in-law owned it, passed it on to us. And we knew everybody in the building. So it was personal for us. It was personal for them, but we just couldn't afford it anymore.
There is a mayoral campaign for the current mayor-elect. It uses a figure of saying that property owners, multi-unit, saying they made a profit of an average of 13%. I don't know where you think he get those figures from.
From the HIOC report and the net operating income report, that the Rent Guidelines Board issues every spring. But the problem, he's using that 12% NOI number, but the net operating income, does not account for debt, for capital expenses. And the Rent Guidelines Board is putting in small buildings that we own with, buildings that have hundreds of units and the finances of those without, maybe just a small percentage of rent stabilized units. They're not comparing apples to apples. It's the numbers the reports are putting too many buildings together. The new 421 rent stabilized buildings are being analyzed with the old stock rent stabilized buildings. And even a building perhaps that has deregulated 90% of their units and just has one or two, small, of the old rent stabilized units. So the math is a mess.
I got one also. I'm supposed to be putting up a building on Smith Street. Make a long story short, I'm also a developer, right? So I put up a lot of buildings all over New York City. This one building, I changed my mind on the first floor. It was 4 stories, three apartments and 1 retail store. About a year ago, 8 months ago, I took away the retail store because I saw that it was not going to do anything good for the neighborhood. So I changed it around and I said, let me make that a 3-bedroom. At the same time I do that, my plans were already approved. So now when I got them back again 8 months later to 9 months later, they took the gas away from me. Okay? They took the gas. When they took the gas away from me, now you took all my units and all my components and all the units that I have to put in. Now it's got to be all electric. It brought up the cost $100,000 for construction. Then I got to put solar panels up on the top. Then I got to put a charging station for cars that I have 2 car spots. Are you out of your mind? Who am I going to rent? The Tesla?
I brought that up in Albany, by the way.
It's like a joke. What are you doing to me?
Yeah.
I just was gone hold to build these a couple of buildings, and I got it back, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is about $100,000 to $150,000 onto my construction budget, and the frustration I got to go through. Who sits and does these laws and these things that don't understand? We should be passing laws and doing things with people that actually live through it and own it, and that's going to do it. So when I got this building, I'm almost just about to toss the shit in the garbage can because I'm like, it doesn't bother me. I don't have a mortgage on it, so it doesn't hurt me. It can stay empty all it can stay. But just me saying it and looking at it like, are you for real? Gas, and you take it away after it was approved, and now it's electric.
Right.
And they got to change all the plans. It cost me another $15,000 just on soft costs on plans and architects looking for equipment. You know, New York City doesn't have too many equipment. You have to figure out.
Right.
Forget about the stove, electric. That's normal. The dryer is normal. That's a standard thing. Heating units and stuff like that.
Right.
Are you joking?
Right.
Solar panels.
I wish you can talk
we-
about it on the floor of New York State
Oh, I want to be there.
Senate.
I want to be there.
Yeah, because we're trying to fight it, but
That was a
but the
joke we were talking
majority,
about
you know,
that.
the Democratic majority.
I was fighting.
They're so obsessed with
I'm gonna give you one
with
more.
the green initiatives.
Yeah.
And no, listen, nobody here is against going green.
No.
Nobody here is against it, but it should be common sense.
Yes.
correct.
I'm going to give you one more before you go. There's not enough power in the neighborhood. They got to bring
I know.
4-phase,
I know.
3-phase down to the neighborhood. It's going to cost millions of dollars because it just can't do it. It doesn't hold.
Listen.
They got to come from the other side of the canal to bring
Yes.
power to the side.
Well, and that's what my daughter saw as a 10-year-old.
A 10-year-old is smarter
That's the repercussions
than
of
the
shutting
governor
down.
of New York State. In that time, it was
Right.
Andrew Cuomo who
Yes.
closed
So-
Indian Point.
Yeah.
It was such a mistake.
So,
such a
so
mistake.
subsequently, she followed up her 2019 project with a 2021 project, and her little sister completed the study last year with a 2024 project on the study of the Indian Point nuclear power plant. And exactly what those two girls said would happen did happen. Energy costs will go up. We won't have enough energy, and technology doesn't exist for what they want to do yet. And we're going to fall short. I'll tell you right now. So I personally did them a favor. I measured my outlet in the year 2019, 2021, and 2024. I'm down to 97 volts in my sockets, and I have a modern house.
Yeah.
Where in 2019, I was getting 117 volts of electricity. So yeah, we're definitely short on my central air units no longer work because there's not enough electricity for them. So I had to refit my house with those new split system ductless air conditioning systems. So that cost me about $10,000 to refit my house just for cooling. That's not even heating yet. So now we're talking about 2030. They're gonna start cutting off your gas, one block at a time. And we just don't see that happening. Hopefully, we'll get a different governor in there, and should put an end to this nonsense because we have technology that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. We're leagues behind.
Is one of the that's a great example of just regulating for regulation's sake. I mean, at the end of the day, you pass a law, still have no way to implement it. Then you get sued. What was that about last week, 2 weeks ago? The environmentalists sued the government and said, "Well, you know what? We need you to tell us the rules and the procedures to implement into the CLCPA." And now the state is saying, "Oh, well, the judge shouldn't allow them to give us the rules on how to do certain things." I mean, you pass a law and have no infrastructure to move forward. And everyone is screaming through the roofs. What is happening? Costs are going to go up. And it's just an ongoing cycle. I mean, at the end of the day, when did the government start treating businesses like a problem instead of a partner? And
That's
it's
a
ridiculous.
great statement right there.
Yeah, I
You
mean, it's
hit
on
the
and
nail
on.
right on the head. Yeah.
When
You
did
know,
government become my partner?
right. When they needed to take from you and give it to.
But see, that's the
all
thing.
other
When they're
ones out.
passing these
Right.
laws, they need buy-in from the industry so they actually understand what the hell is going on.
They're reading from a book.
Well, that's
That-
why you're here
that
today,
you're
right?
thinking
So,
of what
so
you're
we
looking at.
always knew, right? The three of us at least, right? We all and a bunch of other legislators in their defense, we always know the hardships of you guys, and we wanted to make sure that we're not the ones out of our minds, right? And who is out of their minds are these people up there. They don't care the cost, whether the technology is available or not, the repercussions. So we shut down IPEC. Now we're buying extra energy from out of state, out of country, from Canada, right? We have a grid, they gotta deliver it in. What is it? That energy comes from fossil fuel a lot of times. The electricity that we need, the extra ones that we need to generate to charge our Teslas and electric school buses may need to come from fossil fuels. Right. So now my friend Susan over there, she often complains to me about the difficulty. And then she has I guess it's a small business in terms of like Wall Street, but it's not a small business in my district. She employs about 150 people, and she's providing jobs. And now we have candidates, people. Yeah, by the way, New York City, you guys heard of the Triple Crown races, right? Well, New York City just won the Triple Crown.
Yes. Yeah.
And we just won the Triple Crown. Okay, so we're talking about $30 minimum wage. Let's see. So the guy sweeping the supermarket floor, right, is going to make $30 an hour. So if he works 2,000 hours a year, you're going to pay him $60,000 to sweep the floor and cut the roots off the vegetables.
More
In the
jobs
meantime,
in
the guy
Texas and
chopping,
Florida.
the butcher who is slaving away, lugging the meat and cutting it, and he's getting paid $30 an hour. Now, if I was that butcher, I'd say, hey, I want to do that too for $30 an hour, right? And the cashier is making $30 an hour, and the guy pumping your gas is making $30 an hour. How is that even doable? How is that feasible? So if a small market employs, and I know plenty of small markets, right? If Susan over there had to pay everybody $30 an hour, right? Her payroll is $4.5 million a year. That's just without overtime, without any extra work, working on Saturdays, which they do, right? That's going to put a lot of people out of business. So now with the rising costs, we're forgetting something here. We talked about energy and childcare. We didn't talk about insurance yet. So anybody?
Yeah, that's another area.
Eileen?
I am happy to talk about insurance. We've seen radical increases, and I have to say, I'm going to hit this from two standpoints: the consumer, and then what's happening from the industry's perspective. So, in my role as a broker and as a risk management consultant, I represent some of the public benefit corporations that serve our communities, and I have seen coverage go from $1 million and to pay for a full 25 million in limits to cover huge residential and dormitory type facilities, to going to $5 million for the same coverage. Why does the industry do this? And the bottom line is insurance costs are driven by losses. So as we are making concessions and saying to certain I want to be very careful about this. As we are making concessions and allowing litigation to roll out of control and supporting uncontrolled litigation, then we are facilitating the cost of losses going up, which then drives the insurance up. And everybody should know, and I'm an underwriter initially. I started out as an underwriter, then became a risk management consultant and a broker. Everybody should know that the underwriters base their pricing on certain loss ratio assumptions, and they vary from line of business to line of business. The most accommodating line is workers' compensation. So 72 cents of every $1 is expected to pay a combination of loss and loss adjustment expense in work comp, and the remainder is operating expense and a small profit, usually 5%. Trust me when I tell you, there is not one insurance premium that anticipates more than a 5% profit. You're not working for 5% profit, but that's generally how the pricing goes. The other lines of business, property insurance, general liability insurance, have even lower permissible loss ratio. They're anticipating roughly 61 cents to 52 cents of every dollar. to be losses, to be paid in losses in order for the company to break even. In our communities, those loss ratios have ranged up to 102%. The companies are paying up to 102%. They're not out of business because they still get the benefit of investment income. So I don't want to sit here and misrepresent what's happening. But it's not a complex situation. It's got a lot of moving parts, but it's not so difficult it can't be understood. And so the opportunity is multifold for consumers. We have got to do everything we can to make sure all consumers know that the whole premise of insurance is that once upon a time we would stop what we are doing and go help our neighbor rebuild their house or take care of them if they got sick or carry them from one place to another if they didn't have transportation. Now we're all too busy building buildings, running businesses, managing hundreds of employees, trying to make a difference in our state to stop and help our neighbor. So we each take $1 from our pocket, put in the cup, and it's called a premium. And we say, if something happens to you, go take just the amount you need from the cup to rebuild your home, to take care of yourself and your family if you are sick. If we are not putting enough in the cup, when we go to build our own house because something happened, the cup is empty. We can't let companies go bankrupt. On the other hand, if somebody is taking more out of the cup, they inflate their loss. They make it be bigger than it should be. Then they are depriving all of our neighbors. We've got to think of this insurance product for what it is. I have people tell me all the time, I never had a loss. Why is my premium go up?
I was just about to
I
say
never
that.
had a loss, and my premium goes up. We're not paying for our own losses. We're paying for our neighbors' losses.
But how do you mitigate also the fraud that happens in insurance? I mean, there's a particular bill that I think Assemblyman Weapon has been trying to pass, the stage and construction site accidents. To classify that as a Class B felony. Can't get it over the line.
And the federal government has actually put forth a recommendation, and I think it's actually gone through, to try to limit labor law claims for federally funded projects. But that doesn't help us. That doesn't help you as a local guy. And frankly, we don't want to penalize people who are truly injured. Labor law and the absolute liability imposed on you as a building owner and you as building owners and all of us, even our small homes or individual apartments, if we are the owner of a property, if we are general contractors, we have absolute liability under the law for a worker falling from a height or for a failure to have provided a safe place to work. It's a little less absolute on safe place to work. Fall from height is absolute. That law went into effect over 100 years ago when the Woolworth building was being built, when other high rises were being built for the first time, and people were hanging off of the edges of steel girders when nobody knew those kinds of heights. And the intent was if a construction worker who was up on a steel girder was being forced to move quick without protection, and they fell and were injured, mostly died, that there would be some mechanism to make their families whole and to keep them safe. Now, if a worker steps up on a step ladder to put in a light bulb, the owner is being held accountable to that labor law. The law should be interpreted to its original intent for severe construction-related injuries where there is a major height. The workers should be protected, and that should be enforced. And owners should know, even today and in the future, that we have an obligation to make sure that as we press for folks to get their work done, that they're not doing anything inappropriate to workers. But when we do all of those things, we should have all of the rights under law for a defense, and we shouldn't be facing absolute liability. That then positions the insurance companies to come in and give reasonable pricing for any kind of buildings and apartments and other property that we own. Right now, the interpretation of labor law is totally out of control.
And it's passed on to the consumer.
And it is not passed on to consumer. The industry has withdrawn from the business. for the
Well,
most part.
my understanding was, well,
The
for
price
example,
has
if you're
gone
buy,
up.
if the price is going up, the insurance company, quotes whatever the building developer, and then those individuals that are getting those condos or houses, some of those costs are wrapped up into those.
Absolutely, you guys have to pass costs on. But what's really happening is so much of the industry is actually withdrawn. So you only have a handful of companies that are writing what I call providing what I call illusionary coverage. They'll say you have coverage, but when you read the fine print and you read not the exclusions, these things are now put in the definitions and put into other passages. So people don't even know they don't have the coverage. So you go and buy the coverage as an owner. You're paying an inflated price because there's very few markets still willing to provide that coverage. And then of the markets that do provide the coverage, they have now all of these weasel words built in to protect themselves because they're trying not to go out of business.
Right.
Everybody is looking for the delicate balance between being here to pay the losses they should pay and at the same time not getting caught up in the things they didn't price for. And what you as leaders and folks who are trying to keep that delicate balance, you want the market to work, you want the service providers to be made whole, but at the same time, to make it make sense for the consumers, we have to educate our consumers and have people have a realistic expectation of what these products are and what they're intended to do. We have to educate our the workers and all of the folks who are being subject to these things. We must protect workers. We must protect homeowners. We must protect property owners. We have to do it. We can't have people have weasel words. It's got to be very clear as to what is provided and what is not provided. And then at the same time, we have to have people who are cheating be accountable
Right.
so that this doesn't happen. And I think the best thing is for us to educate folks so that they can't cheat. We got to educate everybody around the process. So when we see somebody doing the wrong thing, the whole community just says stop. We don't want to put people in jail for making mistakes or for thinking I should get an extra buck out of it. We want to educate everybody so they can say, no, when you do that, you're hurting our whole community. Don't do that.
Yeah, because there's
We're
so
not
many
supporting
insurance
you.
companies leaving New York, and they won't even do business or write policy in New York.
They
Right.
won't write labor law. They won't write for contractors or for building owners
Sounds like a
because they can't afford the labor law.
There was an article yesterday that came out in Wall Street Journal, and it talked about how in Florida, insurance costs are going down, but here it's skyrocketing. And so naturally, you think that's because of our laws and regulations.
You got to think of relativities. What does it mean to say something is going down if it's already up here? So it went from here to here in Florida. We're going from here up
Yeah,
to
what did
there.
the WSJ was the cause say was the cause of it?
So they were, I mean, at the end of the day, they were talking about the relaxed regulations in Florida.
Yeah, I
gotta
have
hop
to
on
see
this
that.
conversation. I have a construction company. I build buildings for a living, right? 44 years in this business. I think I had maybe 2 accidents in 44 years. The state insurance fund is one of my insurance companies, right? You guys have classifications on carpenters, masons, painters, handyman. You have all these classifications. They keep on going up. I pay an average of $8,000 to $10,000 a month to the fund in my construction company, right? Then I'm evaluated at the end of the year to see how my payroll. It's based upon payroll, nothing else but payroll. The city has implemented in the past 6-7 years, every worker has to take OSHA. Every worker has to have 30 to 40 hours. So let's get to the point on this. They're being trained not to have an accident. I have 72 hours. I'm a superintendent. I spend, 4 or 5 months in school again every other year, just training myself again with alcohol, training myself to see if the men come in drunk, high, whatever it is. We've been bringing down the accidents in this city. If you can look at construction and someone takes the survey, the statistics of it, construction accidents have been down tremendously, but the price of the insurance has not. So I don't know the answer to that one in the sense because I'm feeling it in my pocket. So if I'm paying workers' comp, that's just one part. I pay a lot of insurances. Workers' comp when I'm putting up a building or just a normal repairs that we do around the neighborhood, right? Workers' comp is one, liability is another. There's, construction has a lot of things.
Yeah.
So when I'm paying this amount in workers' comp monthly, because I can't afford the bill at the end of the year, so I got to pay it monthly. Anywhere from 8 to 10 grand a month, that's a lot of money. And then if I'm building this building or I'm renovating this apartment, I really don't work for the public. I work for myself, right? So as doing this, it's such an overcost at the end of the year that there's got to be a better way of looking at it, because yes, I don't have accidents. And when I put my report in that there's no accidents, I get a nice little certificate every 5 years. Thank you, HL General Contractors. You've been a good boy. You know what I mean? But my rates have not, how do you say, factor into what I've done, right? So each individual that has a company that's working, we should be judged individually in a way, because I'm right now paying for the bad guy, right? And I had some guys that falsified and got hurt across the street and came into my building when we were working construction. He hurt his leg across the street and he came into my job site. Right? But now it's the liability, it's the insurance fund. They're answering the damn lawsuit and they're going back and forth with the guy just to settle. That's another thing that I have a problem. Insurance companies do not go to court and start fighting the cases. What they'd rather do is cut a check out and say, hey, the legal bill is $80,000. Give this guy $40,000 and get the hell out of here and call it a day. And that's what you're having. A lot of insurance companies are just paying the claim to cut the legal bill. So there's a lot more behind this because I've passed through it already. After all these years, I can write a book on this shit in plain English. There's nothing else better for me to do, that everyone can feel the pain that I felt already. That how people and how tenants had a little ceiling tile like this fall inside of them and make believe that they broke their neck. Right? What did the insurance company do? Write out a check for $70,000 and just get away. Why? Because they figured out, they did the determination that the legal bill would be $150, and Kings County in Brooklyn have uneducated people when it comes to lawsuits. They'll just say, give it a $2 million, right? When you pick these jury, right? This is all part of insurance. And I'm giving you the facts of what goes on here because I'm already going through it. So what does the insurance company say? Give a freaking $40,000, $60,000. Just get rid of this case because the legal bill is too high.
So that means we need a tort reform to balance it out then.
Yeah. And then the corruption is when I say to her, hey, a tile fell, the tile weighed not even 6 ounces, whatever it was. She couldn't break her neck. What she did was she went down to the pharmacy, bought a neck brace. So when the guy came to, but they didn't even go further to say, hey, let me get a surgeon or someone to check you. But then they just cut out that check too fast just to get rid of the case. And a lot of this is going on with a lot of these insurance companies. You're too eager to cut a payment out instead of saying, wait a minute, you're fraud. I have a guy that when we were building the school, he's a flagger. A flagger. That means he's the safety guy. He went in between the 2 modular buildings that we were building that school, got his arm caught in it, and broke his elbow. $6 million lawsuit. Okay?
Do you get it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, because I fought it.
Okay.
I fought it because you're a flagger. You're the guy that's a safety. How does the safety guy get hurt?
But
Does
the
this make
point
sense?
that you're making is exactly the point that's driving the cost. That these losses, and when OSHA is involved and when you have employers who are following OSHA, we're seeing frequency come down. But those severity losses, those $6 million claims, those $2 million claims, the very large losses are going up. And then a couple of years ago, the legislature said to the attorneys, you can now force Umberto to give you all of his insurance. You can now, it doesn't matter what your loss is, you must tell the lawyers all of his insurance. Now, if he has purchased 10, 25 million in insurance because his contracts mandate him to have that insurance. Now the lawyer knows he has 25 million in insurance. They're going to go after him because he has the insurance, not because the tile costs 25 million.
Right.
What would be your legislative suggestion to cure this?
So the reason these kind of regulations were put into play is because the lawyers who play hardball would not tell the other guys how much insurance, and they made up chase. They don't want to chase the insurance, and they don't want to take claims unless they know there's money to go after them.
Let's put a cap there.
It's a little bit of a catch-22. So I think part of what needs to happen is there has to be a standard set among the attorneys that says, here's the right thing for you to do. But it doesn't mean he's got to lift up his skirts and show them everything that's under his skirts so they can decide where they want to fight to take money from him. As you say, a big driver is just the litigation cost itself. So one of the opportunities is to stop and understand how many regulations have been put through that facilitate litigation, but don't get to what the real thing should be, making truly injured people whole and helping others. And I'm going to give you an example. Michael, you say like examples. I was injured in an automobile accident while I was at work. I wasn't here. I was down in Louisiana trying to close a deal, and a guy runs into the back of the car. I'm a small business owner. I had just started my business. I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to be out of work. I got to the point I was in so much pain I couldn't dress myself. But I paid somebody to bring me to therapy, and I did therapy at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then that person brought me to the office and propped me up. And my sister, who didn't know the business, did everything. I just told her what to do, and she did it. And the doctor tried to give me Oxycontin back then. I'm like, I'm not taking Oxycontin. And they wanted to do surgery. They wanted to cut me from here to here, take bone from my hip, reinforce it, put a piece of metal in it. And then they said, you're not going to be able to do this or this. But in a year, we'll know. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back in and do it again. The claims people said, don't do that surgery. It's only going to get worse. I never had the surgery. I never took the Oxycontin. What I did do was go to a physiatrist and got pain management therapy. I did a couple of shots where they blocked the pain. It was in so much pain I couldn't walk. And 2.5, 3 years of exercise, losing weight, eating right. Guess what? I'm back. I could do everything. I can drive. I can do it both ways. I can't pick up everything I would like to pick up, but I can even pick up weights.
Wow.
We've got to think totally differently about the process, reinvent it. We reinforce the establishment. We let the guys who've always been in charge continue to make crazy money to the detriment of the overall. And I am capitalist. I'm not a socialist or communist, but I understand the delicate balance.
Right.
I want to propose.
So, I'm sorry, but I think Daniela, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can just talk about public education very quickly, because unfortunately I have to leave very soon
Yeah,
to
of
pick
course.
up
Yeah,
my
yeah,
kid
yeah.
at school.
Right.
So I think it's very similar to some other topics that we've been talking. New York State has the most expensive public schools in the nation.
Yes.
There is no comparison. No other state spends nearly as much as we spend. Unfortunately, it's not that all this money is really resulting in better educational outcomes for our children. Our academic results are very average compared to the country. The Citizens Budget Commission now estimates that this year New York City is going to spend $42,000 per student.
Yes.
And a majority of students cannot read nor do math at grade level. One other statistic that I want to share, because I think it gets very little attention, more than 1/3 of kids in New York City are chronically absent.
Yeah.
So they are missing more than 10% of instructional days. That makes a huge difference. And that includes 41% of kindergartners. So it's not that, kids are deciding to not go to school. Like the families or the caregivers are not taking them to school more than 10%. As I said, they are missing more than 10% of days. And I think, unfortunately, we have a lot of children, a lot of families leaving our public schools. So every year we see the same dynamic. The budget of New York City public schools go up, the number of students go down, the per pupil go up, and we see the same mediocre results in terms of academic outcomes. This is all about to get worse with the class size law. So we have now mandated small class size, even for schools that we all know are doing a very good job with high classes.
Right.
For example, the SHSAT high schools. There should be an exemption for
Yes.
these schools in the class size law. And so I just urge you all to really think about, I think education is such a large part of the budget, and it never gets the attention that it deserves. And it's definitely a driver, of out migration. The New York City GOE has their own survey about families that left the public schools. 41%, the number one reason was because they cannot provide a rigorous education that I want for my children. So they had to leave the public school to get more rigorous education. I'm available to meet and share all the research. I have been spending a lot of time looking at particularly New York City public schools, but as well as the state. And there is a lot that lawmakers can do, to change the course of our public schools, which are definitely on a path, an unsustainable path in terms of financial, but also educational outcomes.
Thank you so much. Coincidentally, I'm such an advocate for education that I volunteered in 2 schools for 10 years as PTA president, school leadership team, Title I chair. In fact, it was when Mayor Adams shut down James Madison High School to put the migrants in there. That's when I got so mad that I decided to run for Senate. So if he didn't shut that down, I wouldn't be sitting here today. That's beautiful what you brought up. I know we spend more than anybody else in our education, and coincidentally, there was a canceled or postponed roundtable just for chronic absenteeism. Sarah, do you know who was holding that one? Which senator?
I do not, but I will.
Yeah. We were supposed to have one a couple of days ago, right? Do you remember?
I do not.
It was a canceled roundtable just for chronic absenteeism. That's how big of a problem that is.
It is
So
big.
it will be addressed on your way out. Please make sure my chief of staff over there has your contact information. I would love to invite you back to that one. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I apologize.
Thank you.
And just in addition, it costs the city roughly $500,000 to fire a teacher. Is it affordable? Is it affordable? I mean,
And I
We should
propose,
just give,
Not a
we should just give them $250,000 to quit.
yeah.
Right?
You know the green room, right?
Yeah.
That's
The rubber
that's
room.
the
Yeah.
rubber room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The little papa.
Yeah.
teaches us something. You stick him in there for 18 months. He's getting paid no matter what.
Oh, you can thank the
Makes my
UFT
school
for
the
the.
principal.
Yeah.
The stories I heard was like disgusting.
Yeah. It sure is.
Again, no one does nothing.
Yeah.
I tried to put legislation to slow down the class size, and I also proposed the legislation that let individual school to have the parents involved to make a decision whether to increase or decrease or remain the same class sizes. But those 2 bills never made pass because I was overwhelmingly got rejected with that bill. It was common sense itself because we can't pay for the mandated in one class size. You just can't put universally 25 kids in a class. Some schools just can't. What I believe in, as long as a high functioning school, high functioning kids, and working successfully, let the teachers and parents decide whether you should have implement class size or not. Failing lower functioning schools or lower level of students, yeah, maybe we should have class size, but we got to fund that to make it 25 students in a classroom. But again, I couldn't understand the math. We're losing kids at the same time we're shrinking down. That's another issue.
Yeah, that's another issue.
That's another
Let's
issue.
not digress.
Let's
Right?
digress.
Education, we
Yeah.
have a lot of ideas, a lot of great ideas. So let's. I'm gonna let Lester take over for housing here.
Yeah, housing itself. I sit in a housing committee. Okay. Umberto, let's have other
Hey,
people.
everybody here.
Let
Is an
everybody
expert
talk.
on housing. I'm telling you right now.
I see your construction. I want to hear about housing. How can we make it affordable? I would just want to give us an idea of what can it make affordability.
Thing that you mentioned on the other side was that when insurance goes up, you pass it on to the consumer. In my case, with the building in Chinatown, and again with the building that we own in Brooklyn, they're fully rent stabilized. So that's not an opportunity. We don't have that luxury. Our income is governed. Our income, our only source of income is the rent, and that's heavily guarded by the Rent Guidelines Board. Actually, I have some numbers here. Our insurance doubled from 2019 to 2023. Our taxes went up by 90%, and yet we were only allowed to charge 3% increase rent by 3% annually. So with an already low rent of $900 for a unit, that means 3% is $27 per year, per month, and that's $324 a year. So that doesn't even allow you to paint the unit, let alone repair it or improve it or anything else. So the fact that our income is so heavily guarded and yet our expenses are not at all guarded, it's killing us, and we can't continue this way. It's just not functional.
Jackie, you know what I want to ask you right quick, right? Digressing from insurance for a minute. Do you know of anyone or yourself maybe that warehousing an apartment? Like for the purpose of not renting it out, not wanting
No,
to deal with it?
we never did that. No.
Have you heard such stories?
Yes,
You yes.
there's tens of thousands of empty apartments.
Exactly, and they
Yes.
complain
Yes.
about housing,
And
but
yet-
the apartments are right,
I
Umberto?
have 5 of them.
Right,
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I personally have 5 of them. I own a lot of buildings.
right.
So I personally have 5.
Apartments are available if the city would make it, it would ease the regulations. on
right. It's the
landlords.
state.
Too much to
Right.
repair them, to bring them up to.
Right.
Right. And just yesterday, the Institute for Justice, which is a nonprofit public interest law firm, filed a federal suit. Sponey is one of the plaintiffs, along with 3 other individual property owners, tackling this issue, right? That these apartments are economically unviable. We can't put the money into the apartments if there's no return on investment. And in a city that is desperately in need of housing, not being able to get existing units back onto the market quickly, it's exacerbating the housing crisis. It takes a very long time, right? Umberto knows it takes a long time
Right.
to acquire a piece of property, to finance it, to get the plans approved, right? And to then start building it. It takes a long time. 50,000 units could be quickly put back onto the market
Right.
if the legislation and the rent stabilization scheme allowed us to do that.
If the reward is
Is it
there
Correct. And,
to
you know,
motivate the landlords to get these units
right.
out there.
So these very knowledgeable attorneys know that this is unconstitutional, and they, you know, have championed, you know, our members and, you know, other individual building owners around the state to bring this case to the Supreme Court.
Because if you mentioned about if based on the rent guideline board on based on income and net income, operating income, and the statistics and the figures are not apples to apples and orange, then we'll be always fighting on this net income. That's the issue here, that the rent guideline board have to have a different type of statistic and data to support you. So what in your ways can you make it good on these statistics so we can back it up that you guys are losing money, not making money?
Especially with the mayor-elect saying that he wants to freeze.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that will
Forget about freezing.
exacerbate
He's gonna tell tenants, just don't pay your landlords
Yes.
next.
Correct.
That's
And
that's what's
again,
coming.
It's very
Yeah.
easy to tell the public, let's freeze the rent and vote for me. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's easy, but understanding the realities
Right.
of it. So how can we keep the rents down and make the landlords happy at the same time? How we can make
How about
everyone
freeze the
happy?
taxes?
Is there a situation? Is there a solution of how we can make landlords happy and tenants happy?
Is it the taxes
Well,
itself?
property taxes are the
Property
biggest expense that
Okay.
any building owner
Okay.
faces. And they go up with,
Mhm.
Jackie gave the perfect example, 90% her taxes went up.
Within
if
a
I'm-
which period of time?
From 2018 to 2023.
20,
Went from
if I'm-
45,000
Right.
2020.
23.
Right.
Went from
So we have to change the formula then.
You're fully rent stabilized?
rent stabilized.
Every building that you own.
Right.
No, not every.
There is no subsidy for running.
One we sold.
rent
one we
stabilized
still
housing.
own is fully rent stabilized, and the others are not.
Excuse me.
90.
90.
Yes. It went from 45,000 to 91,000. And there is no.
5
no
years?
Yeah, man.
There
Even.
Is there a large-
I want to hop on that.
Is there a large
Well,
percentage
on
of
this.
buildings that are just fully rent stabilized?
Oh yeah.
There is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There is.
Wait, Umberto.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I this is again, this is the reason why I'm here. This is personal, right? I have buildings all over the place, right? Over 100 buildings I own, okay? All different types of buildings. So this is why the classification. Hopping on what they're saying. I got a building that I first started in Bay Ridge, 20-family house, right? I renovated it, yes. I fixed it up, and I made it still affordable. When I first bought the building, it was $32,000. 5 years later, it's $78,000. I built buildings in Red Hook.
From what year to what year?
5 years. 4 or 5 years.
Like what was the time frame of the years? Was it, let's say, 92 to 97?
No. Go back 5 years.
Oh, 5
So
years
from
ago
now,
to
it
now.
just went up again now this
Okay,
year,
yeah,
15%.
okay.
So go back 5 years.
Okay.
There's renovation there.
Renovations that I had done prior.
Yeah.
So I built a building in Coffee Street, 84 Coffee Street. I built 3 families in Red Hook, right?
Yeah.
Brand new 3 families. When I first did the building and I finished the building, I got the tax bill, $26,000.
Okay.
Here I am 5 years later, it's $40,000 a building. 3 family. So I had to raise the rents to $3,200 because I have an apartment and a half just for the taxes and the water bill. The other apartment and a half, remember it's 3, pays the mortgage and pays the insurance.
Okay.
I net $500 on each brand new building. That's not business. It's a
not.
disaster.
No, it's not.
And I'll give you one more. I house warehouse apartments and I don't care. Don't care. I did one for just to test it out again 5 months ago. I spent $8,000 just renovating it, painting, fixing, cleaning. I got a $30 increase.
Right.
$30 into 8,000.
Right.
It's about I'm not doing the math,
You
but
make your money back in
18
20
years.
It's, all right, let's close.
Who wants to
right?
do this here?
I said you
Right.
The last the piece of housing legislation raised the threshold from 15,000 to about 35,000
To 30, right. There's 2 tiers now,
And
30,000 or
depending on how
50,000.
long the person's lived in that department.
It's just the tier 2, if it's been vacant if it was listed as vacant for 3 years, you were allowed to apply to do the $50,000 improvement. But the average tenancy in a rent stabilized apartment is 2 decades, and it's not uncommon for somebody who owns a rent stabilized building. What's your longest tenancy?
Oh my gosh, there are people in that building that were there since my father-in-law. They passed it on. The family lives there. They don't.
Right. We have tenants that have been in place since 1969.
Yeah.
So what's the rate in which if they, left or?
Well, I have a rent stabilized apartment, say for $950, and the increase with the 30%, with the $30,000 would be $187. But it would cost me tens of thousands of dollars to upgrade the electric,
Right.
upgrade the plumbing,
And we know the
redo the
price of
floors. Just somebody that's been living there that long, it needs a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It does. And to do anything in New York now is very, very expensive.
And I'm sorry that I'm going into this. It just touches a nerve. There's called HPD has a program, right? Open doors, whatever they call it.
Right.
Mind you, these stupid words sometimes pisses me off. Here's the deal. They brought it up to 50,000, right? So that'll help you renovate the apartment, right? And fix the apartment, the warehouse apartment. But they want us to sign the deal and then take my apartment back for 30 years.
Right. Right.
You joking?
Right. I know about
Yeah.
that too.
So now you're going to give me 50,000 to
Right.
renovate this apartment.
Right.
You're going to regulate whoever you put in there. I have no control over it
Right.
for 30 years.
Then
On
it-
top of that, you have control.
Did anybody
And if you want to charge, you're going to give me a stupid chump.
do you
change
know of anybody
$1,600?
that actually
One person did it.
really?
That was only one person. I think he was drugged up. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
Okay,
but this,
so
Okay, let's
all right.
get to-
So now, wait a minute. I'm
I
sorry.
just want to add
Oh, go ahead.
one more thing. So you asked if a building is fully rent stabilized. So what happens now after HSCPA is that if somebody moves out of a unit, a rent stabilized unit, that unit remains rent stabilized. So the people aren't the people who are rent stabilized. The unit remains.
Right.
rent
Yeah.
So you could be anybody going into a rent stabilized building. You could be making $1 million a year and you rent a rent stabilized building. That's your unit.
So what is
Can I add to that? I
And
don't
that
want
should
to-
change.
I am not as fortunate as these guys. I bought, when I was a kid at auction,
I'll give you some.
It's
one
not that
apartment,
fortunate.
hoping that I would have a break. My tenant died in 2005. Somebody moved into my apartment, and the only way I was able to get them out is the tenant died. And I'm trying to renovate so I can move in, and I can't even get the authorization to do renovation because it's still classified as rent stabilized, and I just want to live there myself.
Wow.
I'm surprised you was able to even get the tenant out.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Put on a
It's-
prayer
so-
list.
I'm gonna call for a 10-minute break, and then we're gonna come back and finish up. As you see, I told you we're gonna need more than one of these meetings.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take a 10-minute break. When we come back, we're gonna hear from somebody who is a former staffer to President Trump, President Obama, President George Bush, and the governor of California.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, I hope everyone is refreshed. Let's go for the second leg of this roundtable here. So I want to introduce a very unique guest who was more than humble earlier. Everybody know who Kaidi Tong is? Sure. Kaidi Tong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, her cousin first cousin, Chilling Tong, is right here today with us. She has worked for 3 presidents: President Donald Trump, President Barack Obama, and President George Bush, as well as the governor of California, Governor Wilson, back in the 90s. Right? Did I do my homework correctly?
Yes, you're right.
Your
absolutely.
qualifications are just too much to list. So I'm going to let you talk about that now. Chilling is a very important person in that she is the president of National ACE. It is a national association of Asian Pacific Islander entrepreneurs and business people. So, and I'm sure she gets more than an earful. I'm sure she's much busier than myself or Lester. Oh, by the way, I want to introduce Assemblyman Alec Brooke Krasny, who just arrived and joined us right here. So Chilling is definitely a powerhouse of the sentiments of our businesses nationwide. I'm sure she hears about the hardships of the small business, medium business, and large business in New York State, which is very business unfriendly. And I'm sure she knows of the bloom, the explosion of business and economy in states like Texas and North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, who is just I'll tell you right now, in committee, I have mentioned to the president of the Empire State Corporation, and I asked her, I said, I have a $500,000, 500,000 people in my district, that if you open a Honda automotive plant in Poughkeepsie, New York, or Coney Island instead of a casino, these people would love to slam car doors on Hondas all day long, 6 days a week. Right? They would love to drop batteries in Toyotas all day long. $35 an hour? Okay, no problem. Drop the battery in? No problem. 6 days a week? No problem. I said, what are we doing to attract businesses to New York? And all I got was a word salad. That's what I got. We're not business friendly. We're not. Texas is business friendly. Marysville, Ohio. Why is Honda there building cars only to have to ship it in New York when they can do it right here in Poughkeepsie? Plenty of space, no electricity, but plenty of space, plenty of trainable labor force that are hardworking, that would love to do that all day long, just like the Detroit of 60 years ago. So, Chilling.
Thank you, Senator Chen. I really want to tell you, I'm extremely touched, by attending this kind of event, because Washington D.C. is very special city, and we talk about national policy, but all politics are local. When I heard the true stories from small business owner, from different institutions, I just say that's real, that's a reality. And Herberto's story really touched my heart. He lost his father when he was 9 years old, and he had so many siblings he had to take care. He's number 6, and he had to take care of all the family. This is like a new, for us, I'm new immigrant to this country. We have full hope about this country, and especially for us, small business is so important. So, Senator Chen, thank you so much for putting this together. When I look at your memo, I just said this is a very comprehensive document. I wish everybody can read that. Your staff did a good job to put this text and regulations together. Assemblyman Chen mentioned about quality of life. For small business owner, they work here, they really don't have really high quality of life. We have done so many surveys nationwide, including all chambers and partners in New York. For them, 60% they consider cash flow is the priority, is the biggest barriers for them. And 40% of the Asian American business owner, they cannot afford unexpected $5,000 emergency fund. And think about we're talking about the energy bill, insurance premium, and also suppliers, rents, property tax is really, really a heavy burden for them. Myself, we did a big conference in September at Marriott Marquis. Normally, when we go to different state, the cost is about a $250,000, but this one is $500,000. It's very difficult. We had about 700 small business owner come from all over the country, and a lot of them from New York to attend. The parking fee, the hotel is like $500. Normally, we're going to do one. We spend a lot of money. We're going to do one in Texas next year. Everything is half price. Everything is half price. And I visit Austin a couple of times. I visit Dallas and SpaceX. All the company, they're moving over there. It's a booming. It's unbelievable. So I really appreciate the leadership here, and you are bringing all the good discussion, talk about how we can help New York. New York is such an attractive place. My brother lives here, and many young people, they move here, they don't want to leave, but how can they afford it? How are they could have a quality of life? So I think this is really, really robust discussion, so meaningful. I wish we can continue doing that, and hope I will, mobilize our community or chamber and partners to have this kind of series to different community. That would be very helpful. Thank you for that.
I'm very grateful for your help. Thank you for being here, Chilling. So, this is just another little puzzle to the 1,000 piece puzzle that you hold together in the country. And you can see, I'm sure, some of the states that I can name that you might hear the same thing as what we're talking about now, maybe California, maybe even Washington or Illinois. So thank you for being here and listening to our problems and dilemmas and hardships that we face. So now, that brings me to Wellington over here and Michael over there. So earlier, Jackie mentioned that your apartment building in the Chinatown area. We're in Henry and what?
Close to Catherine.
Oh, okay. All right. I know the area well. I worked in the 7th precinct in the Lower East Side for 10 years. So why is the value of the building destabilized and depreciated? It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. So, just floating it as an idea out there, right? Holding my own opinion, right? I'm going to ask Michael and Wellington talk about what do you think? And Andrea, we're going to get with you in a minute, right? I promise. So why do you think, is there a reason for anybody, let's say, to want to depress the prices of the buildings in Chinatown? Why is there such a bleed of Chinese Americans from the Chinatown area in the last 20 years? Because how do I know that? Because they're all in my district. And that's why I'm sitting here today, right? Why is there such a bleed? And is there some kind of conspiracy to drive down the prices of real estate in Chinatown, Wellington?
Great question. And first of all, I have to thank the whole group here. And I think this is a very interesting discussion. And I think it goes back to the basics, the bottom, right? I mean, it's really at the end of the day about basic economics of 101. And as human being, we need to migrate. Since the 1920s, New York State has been losing population. We went from 40 somewhat seats to now 20 somewhat seats, right? So historically, and it's the classic Jesus story. There's no room at the inn. In the core of Chinatown, as you know, despite the mistaken belief that it's gentrification, that developers are coming in driving out people, in the historic core of Chinatown, in half a century, we had never built one unit of housing of any kind, right? And so if you have your kid, your daughter, where would you want to grow? Right, and lest they grow up, you certainly know the building has no elevator, it has no two means of egress. Right, I used to be in the field. I put up buildings as well. So I know your pain. I know perfectly. To your point about the school construction in 1980s, we went to a school to help build a wall to divide a large classroom into 2 classrooms with a sheetrock wall with 2 blackboards, a chalkboard on both sides with a door. $125,000. And we said, why did the winning bid end up to be $125,000? The custodial union has to be there. The security guard needs to be there 24/7. So this has become a very important costly state, right? I mean, we are one of the highest costs as just said, and so we need to deal. And so the fundamental of this unit, which is why I think this is a very important discussion. I was talking to Jackie and to this lady as well. One of the experiment, one of the solution, I hope we find solutions. One of the pilot tests we should do is that our operating pressure are way too high, and our costs, the operating costs are gonna, and what she's getting in return is that this is the new Delta variant. In order to reduce the operating pressure, government needs to cut spending, and you need to reduce her property tax, right? And so, for lack of a better thing, right now, that's why we created. First of all, number one, to give you some background statistics, in our district, our compliance officer, because we're well behaved, went out and did a survey of the housing stock in my district. She surveyed 5,000 units. Turns out 4,200 units are like hers. So despite the mistaken belief that says Chinatown is really gentrified and things, the developers coming in building, is that it's the opposite. Last time we built housing was Bill Green from HUD that built Confucius Tower.
Right.
That was how long ago? That was 1970s, right? So as a result, the unit count out of the 5,000, 4,200 are stuck like this. And they produce generation like Lester. Right. They grew, the grandchildren grew up, the children grew up, go to school, took off. No one ever tells you to come back, Lester, come back to that apartment and take it over, right? And that's not but in the meantime, a point of fact, we have another angel advisor that help us analyze the area. My poor tenement building that how the other half lives in Jacob Reese, we pay $300 million in taxes every 12 months.
Coincidentally, I never ever, I know the legislators out in Chinatown in Lower Manhattan. I never ever heard one of those legislators say we need to lower property taxes. Right. But yet here's Wellington telling us that we need to lower property taxes to make it, worthy for a landlord to stay in business in the Chinatown area.
And so, for lack of because it's not going to be easy to lower property taxes because you got programs and things like that, right? So like the daycare, CUNY offer daycare every school, so that it's not just the workers, it's the student that have kids can afford to improve themselves and things like that. So you need to provide daycare on that point. But at the end of the day, currently on the horizon, I have not heard anybody that says I'm willing to cut property taxes.
Well, I am.
Right. So therefore, one of the pilot program, and I encourage people because the well-to-do knows how to manage trust, family trust. Trust is a tax reduction mechanism, right? Because when somebody passes away, give you a $4 million painting, you have a way of trust to take care of that rather than says you have to pay $2 million in estate tax, right? So by nature, in a struggling community like this, we need to figure out whether some form of pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes, can I offset some of that tax that she has to pay, whether it's just jump by 90%, take it and reduce it so that she can repair the boiler, she can change the roofing every, 10, 15 years, right? The windows need to be repaired, the electrical wiring needs to be fixed. In 2023, 1/4 of people who die of lithium battery fire die in my district. So I say with a heavy heart, our mission, we need to work together to find common ground solutions. That's why I love your comment about what are the possible solutions. And I think this is one possible solution is to say that let's do the reverse. Suppose these units are the Howard Cosell is the Bronx burning. The exit strategy, she did it the right way by selling. Back in the old days, in the Bronx, it was selling to insurance company, torch the building.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's why Howard Cosell with the Yankee famous about is the Bronx burning. Right. And so that, thank God, no one is using that exit strategy. But in the meantime, you're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, regardless what we do. Right. So at this moment, we need to lower the operating pressure. The operating pressure is that she must have a reduction in that cost. And so in a way, that's why we formed the Business Improvement District. Who's subsidizing the repair? The uncontrolled commercial tenant who has bear the burden of.
Yes, agree.
Right? Because that's why we
Right.
tried to save it. So Chinatown didn't have the gentrification problem. Chinatown has a stability foot problem because my small merchants are footing the bill for preserving
everybody
these
else, right.
4,200
And it's
units.
the same way.
And
it-
God
right.
forbid, you need to go back now and produce these 4,200 units brand new. You can never replace it at that cost.
Right.
And the resulting unit, after you put in a handicap ADA elevator with 2 sets of stairs, you will end up with a closet in front and back of that tenement building,
Right.
how Jacob
Right.
read. So therefore, that's why there's no movement. That's why it preserved Chinatown the way in that state. Because the floor area is 6. How come there are a lot of buildings that are not 6 levels? How come you don't put in an elevator? Because keeping it current state is
Right.
the best way to do it.
Right.
So one solution is to say, can we explore a pilot area in a mitigation zone where you got hit with 9/11? This is still the security zone area, right? And we have the federal securities, the city security zone, and give us a mini Marshall Plan just for this area, just to preserve the Jacob Reed's 19th century tenement building that she inherited from her family, and preserve it for now, because there's no way you can replace that unit in due time. By the time, even if you do rezoning or whatever you build, by the time you take that and build that, it'll be 5 or 6 years from now at the earliest.
Have you brought that idea to any legislators out in Chinatown?
We have, that's
City
why
or
we
state?
form, that's why we formed the business improvement district to stabilize the base, so that, quoting the Peking duck owner restaurant, if I weren't for my restaurant making a profit, all those units, I would have unloaded this building long ago, just like she did. The other thing is that we form the community land trust as an option, not as a gun to say that you must. And the community land trust option is basically this: it's a poor man's way to mitigate, like a wealthy know how to do with their family estate. Is that community land trust lets you offset your property taxes and use it for something else, right? Case in point, Confucius Tower is in a rent reduction mode. No one ever says there's a problem. You live in Battery Park City. Do you own the land? You don't own the
No,
land.
right.
You live in Roosevelt Island, the entire island, you don't own the land.
Right.
Long Island City, a lot of waterfront co-op that you bought, you don't own the land. So what's the hang up about that you join a nonprofit co-op called a community land trust? You cede your title for $1. No one's going to touch your land because you got a structure on it. You get reduction in the price. At least you can stay in town. That you got a cushion of reserve money so that you can do repairs, change the emergency light, change the battery, change the boiler, fix the windows, pay the roofing, and stay in business at least for a while. That's just a start. However, you can also supplement it with something else. So this is why I think it's worthwhile to take a look at it, because nothing else, no one's going to operate run-on campaign that says, I'm going to,
So, correct me if I'm wrong, right? The community land trust. I think we have a problem right now in certain parts of Manhattan where there is such a community. Am I correct to say that, Sarah? I'm sorry about the co-ops that's about to lose their land in Manhattan.
Oh, the land with the leases.
Yeah, the land lease. Right.
Well, right. Many of them were
So-
for a long period of time.
Right.
Now
So-
the landowner is
Yeah.
ready to reset the ground lease.
Right. So now, right. What I'm saying is, I'm afraid that, in this community land trust,
Yeah.
that down the road, somewhere along the way, somebody is going to lose their land and they're occupying without, they're going to be trespassing.
Right. I want to clarify very clearly that the hybrid community land trust doesn't exist yet. The model of the community land trust came along in the 1960s, right? The urban riot days of looting, and that's how BIT got formed, the unclean and safe, because we will torch the building or the building goes down in neighborhood, and then the building is in default. You foreclose the building is vacant, right? In many cases, and the government inherit the building.
Take over. Yeah.
You take over, and what are you going to do? Government is not good at producing housing, and so they turned it back to a guy like Umberto, right? And he said,
HDFCs.
I give it to you for $1. You promise to live in it for 5 years.
Right.
And in return, you get to run with it. And that's the basis, the original basis of the community land
Right.
trust of the 1960s, right?
Right.
However, this is different now. This is about preservation. This is about encouraging stabilization, because at this high operating cost with 40% rise in tariff costs and all these things, you are not going to build affordable housing. And the question is, for the people that are stuck like her and Lester's building in Chinatown, can we offer a mini Marshall Plan? There's got to be a way to rebuild. We offer the Nazi Germany the way to rebuild. We offer Hiroshima to rebuild. Here we are in the 20th century, 21st century Pearl Harbor, and we have no operating relief valve. And I'm just saying, let's come up with something creative that is acceptable to the government and that's acceptable to the community and have no fear.
What is acceptable to the community?
Right. So I think that I don't think anybody, the hang up right now is that there's a lack of clarity of getting through to the a compromise, that solution that you're talking about, which is that how do we make her stay? Knowing that there's no return. Why? I'm not in a nonprofit like Wellington. Why should I be the do-gooder? And by the way, even if I want to be nonprofit, you still have to break even. If you're not breaking even,
Right.
one or a couple of things is going to happen. Like hers, which case you destabilize the existing remaining affordable housing unit currently. And you're not helping the people that want to stay, that have the baby, that want to come in and just say, I might fix up that apartment if I get a tenant. 85% of my tenants are not owners. They have no skin on the game. So you offer me a better place, I move out. And that's why in a quarter century, Upper Manhattan and this community is the only neighborhood that's been losing the young. Because you see the future and you say, I didn't come to America for this. Right? We come to America for a better dream. And most people are stunned, says, what do you mean no elevator? What do you mean I had to carry the mini refrigerator up 6 flights of stairs by a senior?
Right.
What do you mean my wife has to watch the baby at 2 o'clock in the morning? If there's a commotion, she has to run up to the rooftop and toss the baby to the adjoining roof. Is that where you want to live? Is that where you want to hold the property? And so something's got to give. So very clearly to me, and I say it with sincerely with a heart, all the public elected officials are meant to do good for the community. You ran on the campaign, you want to do something positive for the community. So across the aisles, the spending for this nation is out of control. The spending out of my biggest concern right now is the US dollar weakens its position, which other country would love to take over, in which case we cannot print the dollars the way we want it. We got to start reducing the spending, which means very painful. That means some programs got to be cut.
Correct.
And you got to give them the relief pressure on the bottom to narrow the gap. Otherwise, she's a classic example. She's not an evil developer. She's not a speculator. But how do you hold on? So we have set up one of the many community land trusts across the nation now, ready for you to do an experiment. And it's up to you to say what is acceptable to you so the community can run with it. Because she has to be comfortable with it. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you understand. The community land trust right now, the biggest hangup is people fearful that says, I'm losing control of the land. Battery Park City, all the residents there do not own the land underneath it. Roosevelt Island, you do not own the land underneath it. It's state-owned. The king of Hawaii used to own all of Hawaii. Did you not live in Hawaii ever? No. So if we can figure out a mechanism that says she technically is in a nonprofit co-op, automatically you enter into a program like Confucius Town.
Wellington, can I ask you a question? Well, if you transfer your property into a community land trust,
Right.
you no longer own it, right?
You
So
no longer-
I can't sell the building.
No, the building is yours. The building is yours. Just you don't own the title to the land as a technicality. But
Then if I don't
Does
own the
that
title, then I don't.
does that have an expiration date?
no, that is
Right.
therefore that is the restricted covenant that you need to work out.
Would you have taken that option?
Meaning that, but
I
yeah, but it's not simple, but it's simple at the same time that in order to make it amenable to these ladies, they have to feel very comfortable because there's no plan. Because the beauty of this plan is that you got a structure on it, just like Confucius Tower, just like Battery Park City, 99-year lease.
Right.
Do you own that co-op? If I sell you that co-op, if you own that unit, what's the
I'm
difference?
sorry,
It just
Wellington. We're gonna
yeah.
have to move on at this point. Michael, do you have anything to add to what Wellington said?
I just want to agree that Chinatown is rapidly losing its young. As somebody that
We
worked
sure
in
are.
Asian American mentoring nonprofit before I came to the museum, I could tell you I used to look at all the enrollments of all the Chinatown public schools there, and they're all about half now from when I used to work in the nonprofit, probably about like 5 to 7 years ago. So all the families are leaving. That's leaving a lot of seniors in Chinatown who have less buying power. And so therefore all the local businesses suffer, and then a lot of the Chinese end up moving to your districts.
Yes.
Yes.
And so where, things are thriving. So I think it's affordable housing. There's not enough housing in Chinatown for people to move in with a family and to actually establish themselves. And so, Chinatown's really rapidly relying on a tourism business, which I can tell you is severely depressed this year. Because I just ran
It's
into a
limited to
restaurant.
Mott Street, and that's it.
Even Mott Street, I would say like at nighttime, Chinatown shuts down pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And, there's not that many
It sure
stores
does.
running around.
Yeah.
I mean, I met with a handful of other museum directors, for profit and nonprofit in the lower Manhattan area. And they all said everybody's admissions are down this year.
Right.
And so if Chinatown's going to be heavily reliant on tourism, then it's in trouble because the families are not there to sustain these businesses. I met with a restaurant owner this morning, and he said, my receipts are down this year, and we just don't get the local business.
Everybody's telling me the same thing as
So
well.
if it's all transitory, then we have to either make Chinatown a tourist destination, or we have to try and get some families back in there.
And also lower birth rate. Don't forget
Yes.
the replacement rate. I hate to put the pressure on the younger generation. You require 2 point somewhat children to replace. Currently, we're not even at 1.
Right.
I would like to say my family was a beneficiary of rent-controlled apartments. My grandfather lived in a rent-controlled apartment at 78 Mulberry for, my father grew up there, my grandfather and his family grew up there. My parents did quite well in their lives, they became professionals here.
Right.
But, that was my daycare, right? My grandfather had a rent-controlled apartment. He had a pension from working at OTB, and he used to be able to take care of me every day. And my parents didn't have to fork over the, $25,000 that you need each year to pay for healthcare, right? But now I'm in a great position where I get to, my kids went to the daycare that, Mr. Lopez owns, and they go to the private school that Mr. Lopez owns. So,
All right. So
affordable. Made it affordable.
thank you.
But I got to say, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for that home base that we had, then maybe my family wouldn't have been as fortunate as we are now today.
Right.
Yeah. The
So-
last plea I have for all of you is that they don't have money to burn. So if it's not community land trust, do a payment in lieu of taxes. Can you reduce, if they join that program, can reduce the property that they can then use to offset for boiler repair, for wiring repairs, for the roofing repairs. And that is what is needed. Because
I would love to do that if I can get the majority of the legislators to agree with me. That's
So
because
that's why we-
believe me, I feel it. Like I said, I once owned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenements, right? 2 6-family apartments. The rest are not controlled, not stabilized. Right, 2 commercial mixed uses and 1 2-family house. But I had to downsize to just 1. I couldn't do it. I can't do it. I took the capital gains and I ran with it, and I reinvested that money, and I kept 1 storefront for myself in case I wanted to do something down the line. And I find it to work better for me, but I'm not making any money in my storefront. Like you said, the storefront is bearing the burden of the tenants upstairs, which
we're
is
supporting the affordable
right.
housing.
So, all right. So to wrap up today's roundtable, I would like to hear from Andrea.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me. And it's been really interesting to hear all the conversation around the table. And I know from like a different perspective in terms of healthcare and health insurance, the rise of healthcare costs is impacting individuals, families, small businesses, employers, everyone. So it's expensive. And I think everyone can realize that. I know the New York City just
formed a new Office of Healthcare Accountability, and they've published some recent reports on the rising costs of care and just more transparency around how much some services cost. I mean, I think one example was just speaking of the lowering birth rate, having a baby in the hospital, one inpatient hospital, the average price is $12,000, and that's with no complications and nothing else, and it can be much, much more. And then also even just prescription drugs sometimes costing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So the role of health plans is really to try to reduce those costs for consumers and, make sure if for an inpatient stay, you're not paying $12,000, you're paying $150, or for a prescription drug, you're paying $50 instead of hundreds of thousands. But the premium that people have to pay is, it's not nothing. And I know it can be hundreds of dollars a month, even if you don't need some of those high cost services. So that's something as I mentioned, Emblem Health's a nonprofit health plan, so a little bit different even than some of the large national carriers. We're not trying to raise premiums to satisfy stockholders. We're really trying to make sure that people can get coverage that they can afford, whether you're a business owner or for yourself as a consumer, and keep those premiums low, but also make sure that people can get the care that they need. I know Eileen was mentioning earlier some of the, care she had to receive after an accident. I think a lot of that is making sure people can stay healthy, not necessarily jumping to the inpatient expensive procedure that's needed, but getting the right care at the right time, in the right place, from the right, level of provider, to prevent some of those more acute care episodes, and also to keep people healthy in the first place and really prevent them from needing some of those high cost services. So, I think the rising cost of healthcare is something we're feeling, something everyone's feeling. And so it's something we're definitely wanting to try to make sure we can keep it affordable for everyone.
So I think I just want to.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
I actually have your company as my
emblem.
And I pay for my family and my own personal family and my employees.
Mhm.
I pay $4,000 a month. It's crazy. I'm not about to, I don't know where to go, what other company I can go to, but just for family, I pay $4,000 a month, which is also my own. Some of my employees, I have to pay 70% of that, right? Then I have single, like they're just a single person, right? And I think that's almost $1,000-something. Do you know if I take all that money and I put it in a money market or something, or in a stock, it might be better for me to invest that way and use that to pay these courses, because it's just out of control that I'm paying every month to your company. Again, no disrespect to it, but I'm saying I have not shopped it. This December, we're going to look to shop it, because every year your company's gone up tremendously. And I don't know why, I'm trying to figure this out, but every year you rise up anywhere from $300 to $400 more per person. I don't know what that percentage is. Is it 40, 30%? But I don't understand that part, is why we getting so much every year. Every December, if I'm not mistaken, you guys raise it for January 1st.
Yeah, and it's not just Emblem, I will say
No,
that.
no, I
Like, it's-
understand
yeah.
that. I
And I think
understand.
it's an industry-wide problem, to your point, of having to continue to raise premiums just to, we're not making a profit at all, we're just
That's
trying to
confusing.
cover the costs. And when, we're not able to control costs in other ways, then it's felt by the consumer, it's felt by business owners. And, as costs continue rising, the cost of hospital procedures continue rising, the cost of drugs continues to skyrocket. There's only so much that can be paid. Someone's got to pay that. And that's the, I think, challenge.
And you have to get sign off from DFS every time you raise premiums from a
Correct.
certain rate, right?
Yeah.
So it just falls right back to government.
Exactly.
What do you think, Andrea? Like in Europe, they have pretty decent healthcare, and at the same time, they're not paying this crazy amount of money for it. Like, comparing it, do you think we can, it makes sense to take a look at their model? What do you think?
I think in some ways there might be things we can learn from it. I don't know if it'll work in the US the same way it could work in European countries, just because we're such a unique place. But I think part of it, again, going back to kind of prevention and the things that are not focused on, I think a lot of European countries also spend a lot on things like childcare, on things like social services. Not saying that that's where we need to increase more money, but I think just in encouraging people to be healthy, I think would save on a lot of the more expensive inpatient costs that we have here that I think are less a factor there, just in terms of preventing some of those high costs in the first place. And I think also, again, like the high costs that hospitals are charging, the high costs that drug companies are charging, I don't think are felt in the same way in other markets. And I think that's really what's escalating the high cost of healthcare in this country.
And just looking at the people in Europe, you don't see so many unhealthy people than compared
They don't
to
eat
America.
lettuce.
And we're talking about the quality of food.
They don't eat
Right?
lettuce. Yeah.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
quality of food. Now, listen, I understand that years ago the goal was to feed everyone in this country,
Yeah.
right? But the quality of food that we eat, and that's a different question, and I think that's the question to the FDA and how they, how they approve what we eat.
Right.
But Senator, if we would have a next roundtable, I would love to have someone from the food industry and
That's what I'm trying to
just discuss what we eat, why it costs so much, why it costs, and stuff like that.
Interesting. So wait, so I think time is running out. I wanna thank our guests in the audience. I'm gonna ask this gentleman, can you kindly identify yourself and if you have anything to add?
I'm an advisor to National ACE.
Oh, okay, great.
Was the deputy director during Bush administration as the White House initiative on AAPIs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Asian Pacific Islander Initiative
Right,
for the White
right.
House. Wow,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
We
Alright.
certainly have powerhouse over here.
Yeah.
So the Lena Chen, she's a local community leader of my district. She stepped out. So I want to thank everybody for being here. You have no idea how precious this discussion was to us, so that we can, the four of us actually see eye to eye on many issues. And I can honestly say that I also see eye to eye with your ideas and your concerns, and we share the same difficulties and hardships in our journeys. No matter, when you do a lot of same things together, you're gonna feel the same things too. And we know it's New York is getting, even from the working guy to the landlord to the small business owner to the large business owner, we all feel it. We all feel it. When you tell a guy who's making $300,000 a year and you say, you're rich, we got to tax you $150,000, and all of a sudden he's not rich anymore. But when you talk about somebody who makes $50 million a year and you say, okay, you're rich, we're going to tax you $25 million. Well, guess what? After 25 million, he's still rich. So for them to be declaring war on the middle class or the upper middle class is just totally wrong. We need these people to drive the economy, because when I make my money, I don't keep it in my pocket. I go out, I spend it. I tip people. I buy gas. I buy food. I don't mind going out to dinner. Well, and talk about going out to dinner. You're right about the food industry. A family of 5 going out to dinner now is like $600-700, including tip.
Listen,
How can a restaurant
going to movies with kids, $100.
Yeah.
Just going to movies.
How can a restaurant, go on a business and stay in business with this kind of pricing? And I know they're not even making 10%. Like you said, we're operating on 5%. A lot of the 99-cent stores, they're operating on 5% profit margin. If somebody comes in that day and steals $50 worth of stuff, often that's the entire profit for the day. There's Miss Lena Chen. She just stepped back in, a local community leader of nonprofits and private business in my district over there. She also employs a number of people, so we all feel it. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of my colleagues for being here. I promise you the next time we return, we're going to talk about more, and we're going to have more legislators over here, because we are concerned. We're talking about fiscal responsibility, cut the spending. We're talking about spending wisely. Earlier this year, Jano Lieber, the chairman of MTA, we didn't get the transportation today. He's asking New York State to fund him $65 billion over the next 5 years. And and we gave it to him.
Capital funding.
Yeah. And what I said was, do you realize that's $33 million a day? I said, do you even charge anybody anything to ride the train anymore? I called for his resignation. Right? The guy just keeps digging a hole and digging a hole for the MTA. Now we have another clown saying that it should be free. Okay, so let's give him $100 billion over the next 5 years. Maybe that'll be where does it stop? Fiscal responsibility. We have to make it stop.
Can I also propose something in the sense that I would like to do? If we can get a bunch of senators, Congress, whoever we get together, I'll pay for the bus ride. You can come down to the neighborhood and I can show you buildings. I can show you how we all operate. When you see firsthand of what's going on, Now you know the pain. Now you feel it, you see it, and there's a visual of something that you can understand.
I'll
When
go
I-
there with you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can come with me.
Mr. Will.
You
Yeah.
come down and I'll drive you. I'll show you a
We
grocery
need
store.
majority there. Majority. Yeah,
Like
we'll divide
everybody.
majority.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a lot of legislation come from areas that are, run down and have a lot of issues there, but they don't care.
I know.
And you would be amazed at the number of bills that come up that the legislators haven't even read.
Right.
But you come there to have a discussion and they don't have any clue what it's about, but vote aye.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we got to stop it. This is the reason why we need to sit at the table to stop these things.
And you're gonna see me trying to stop it, starting when the session starts again. I want to thank my team from Albany, who came all the way down from Albany. Miss Sarah Pate over there, my legal counsel. We have Katie Delgado, our press secretary. We have Tom over here. I don't even know your title.
The communications man.
Mark from the same unit. So this will be you'll be able to find this meeting on my probably on my Facebook page, my social media, as well as my Senate website. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming down. I'm very grateful. I'm sure that, we got an earful, which is great. You know what? I expected that. Your concerns are no surprise to me because, like I said, I'm grassroots myself. Umberto, I know Umberto and we came from the same tree, same seed. I had nothing when I came to the country. I never talk about that. You know why? Because I never want anybody to pity me. Susan was the same way over there. We're ground up. Lena over there, we're ground up. So's Michael and Alec and well, Lester was born here, so he doesn't count. So we're ground up. So we never complain. We never talk about it. We don't want pity. We just want fairness. That's what we want. We want a chance to be able to do what we started out doing, and that's what we're gonna do.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.